None are more hopelessly enslaved than those who falsely believe they are free. Although Goethe wrote these words about 200 years ago, they may yet be more applicable today than they were then. Many people believe that we live in a free society just because the West hasn't devolved into a dystopian hell like the one portrayed in George Orwell's 1984. Most people think that tyranny would be something that everyone could see and understand. But is this accurate? Or do we live in a society that is similar to the one that Aldous Huxley presents in Brave New World, his dystopian novel? Perhaps the public has become so distracted by technology, drugs, pornography, and other enjoyable distractions that they aren't even aware of the change they are learning. Huxley didn't think the dystopian society he portrayed in Brave New World was an immediate danger when it was originally published in 1931. But 30 years later, following the Second World War, the rise of authoritarianism, and significant scientific and technological breakthroughs, Huxley had a change of heart. He offered the following warning in a 1961 address. According to Huxley, the ruling classes would eventually discover that, in addition to the more obvious use of force, the more covert strategy of engulfing the populace in an unlimited supply of enjoyable distractions could also be used to maintain population control. One may wonder how enjoyment may be used to deny someone their freedom. We must talk about operant conditioning, a technique for changing an organism's behavior in order to respond to this query. Harvard psychologist B.F. Skinner conducted a well-known series of studies in the 20th century where he examined various approaches to teaching rats new behaviors. These tests demonstrated how people can be conditioned to embrace their slavery by dominant forces. In one series of tests, Skinner attempted to use positive reinforcement to develop new behaviors. Each time the rat exhibited the desired behavior, he fed it. In a different series of experiments, he attempted to use punishment to weaken or eradicate particular behaviors. When the rat engaged in the behavior that Skinner wished to stop, he set off a painful stimulus. Skinner discovered that while punishment temporarily stopped the undesired actions, it did not take away the animal's desire to repeat them in the future. Conversely, behaviors that were conditioned by positive reinforcement were more resilient and resulted in long-term modifications to the animal's behavioral patterns. Huxley was aware of Skinner's research and the socio-political implications of it. Huxley predicted in Brave New World and his other books that a governing oligarchy would form and conduct similar experiments on people in order to instill obedience and reduce the likelihood of civil disturbance. In contrast to Huxley, Skinner thought that social engineers could employ operant conditioning to create a scientifically controlled utopia, even though he was aware of the social ramifications of his research. But as the following passage from Skinner's book Walden the Toe shows, such widespread training would actually make it possible for a wicked kind of dictatorship to exist, where the people would feel free but in slavery. Soma, a superdrug, was the primary reward employed in Brave New World to train acquiescence through positive reinforcement. For the sake of the state, the world controllers supported the systematic drugging of their own populace. The people of Brave New World consumed Soma on a regular basis because it provided what Huxley referred to as a respite from reality. It produced pleasant hallucinations, euphoric emotions, or a potent sleep aid, depending on the dosage. Additionally, it increased suggestibility, which made the propaganda that citizens were constantly exposed to more effective. However, Brave New World's world controllers weren't solely dependent on Soma. The administration encouraged sexual promiscuity as an additional strategy to guarantee that everyone relished their enslavement. The phrase, "everyone belongs to everyone," was ingrained in the minds of the populace from an early age, and with the abolition of the family and monogamy, everyone was free to follow their sexual desires. Sexual fulfillment was always available, which kept people too preoccupied to notice the truth of their circumstances. Another significant factor in the establishment of the Brave New World's pleasant detention camp was state-approved entertainment. The state employed what Huxley referred to as incessant distractions of the most fascinating nature as tools of policy to engulf its subjects' thoughts in a sea of meaninglessness. There is no denying the similarities between contemporary civilizations and Brave New World. In his 1958 book, Return to the Brave New World, Huxley questioned how future social engineers could persuade their subjects to take medications that would alter their thoughts, emotions, and behavior. He came to the conclusion that simply making the tablets available would probably be sufficient. 1 in 6 Americans are thought to use a psychotropic medicine these days. The West is experiencing a widespread opioid crisis. Many people have fallen victim to pornography addiction as a result of being able to satiate their sexual cravings online. Additionally, most people's attention is diverted by enjoyable distractions from cell phones and other gadgets for the most of the day. It's unclear how much of these distractions are purposefully forced onto us and how much are impromptu reactions to customer demand. Whatever the reason, the fact remains that a populace that has been dumbed down and distracted lacks the mental capacity to fight against its captivity. Until the cry, "Give me freedom" or "Give me death," replaces the contemporary one that says, "Give me TV and burgers, but don't bother with the responsibilities of freedom." Freedom won't win out. Conversely, as long as individuals continue to sacrifice their independence for comfort and pleasure, the type of social conditioning Huxley forewarned about will only get more sophisticated and potent as technology develops, and more knowledge about how to predict and manage human behavior is acquired. It remains to be seen if the majority of us will be able to withstand this type of manipulation, or even want to. If present patterns persist, humanity might soon split into 2 tribes. For the sake of preserving both their freedom and humanity, some will opt to oppose their enjoyable servitude, while others will embrace it. Because when a slave becomes joyful, he has essentially given up all that makes him human. As the former slave Frederick Douglass noted in the middle of the 19th century, long before Huxley wrote Brave New World,